What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here, Unsleeved Media, and I actually have been meaning to cover this article for more than a week, almost 2 weeks now. A while back, The New Yorker put out a article on the 25th anniversary of Magic the Gathering. About half of it was really, I thought, well written, interesting. The caricature art is not my thing. That must be one of their things. I don't really read The New Yorker. I don't read any mainstream media because, well, obvious reasons. But I wanted to check this out. So it was written by Naima Jahromi, a man whose Twitter account is private. Not a good start. But it's still an article I would say is reasonable to read if you read only the first half. It spends some time talking about the creation of D&D, how Magic the Gathering really came to be with some of the early players like Richard Garfield, Peter Adkison, and early Magic the Gathering Wizards of the Coast. In 1991, when a friend put him in touch with a gaming entrepreneur named Peter Adkison, that Richard Garfield, then finishing a PhD in combinatorial mathematics, can't even say it, that shows you how smart he is, that would be make something of the creation. So Adkison lived in Seattle, worked a day job as a sysad analyst for Boeing. He moonlit as the founder and CEO of a gaming company called Wizards of the Coast. This was I'm not going to spoil the whole thing. This is a rare case where I'm happy to send them traffic because I think the first half of this article is pretty fun. Hearing about how they met, hearing about the creation of the game. Now, these things exist in other places, but I thought this was well written and interesting. Talked about it debuting in August of 1993 with an initial print run of 2.6 million cards with fantasy illustrations to match. Over the next decade, it would inspire a genre of collectible card games as Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Pokemon. Mel Lee, a game designer who has a PhD in biomedical engineering, who worked at Wizards until last year, discovered the game in '95. I grew up in the suburbs, she said. You have a lot of time on your own. Magic gave her nerdy friends something to talk about when in the schoolyard. That's very true. I don't know how Magic the Gathering was in the big city because I always lived in the suburbs, but you did have a lot of time to yourself. When you live in a household like I did, where both parents work, there are long periods of time where you've got to be at home, you can't leave, and so you sort through cards, you look at cards, you build decks. This is what really worked for Magic the Gathering for me. Goes on to talk about how the rules change and Wizards of the Coast acquiring Dungeons and Dragons in 1997. We talk about Magic has spread to more than 30 million human operating systems. Today, those humans play with some combination of the game's 18,000 unique cards in 11 different languages. Magic YouTube shows like Geek and Sundry's Spell Slingers regularly draw hundreds of thousands of views. I would say a channel like Tolarian Community College is probably a better example of a channel that regularly draws views and is completely committed to Magic the Gathering, but they chose a big corporation. No surprise there. In a video on a channel called Open Boosters, by the way, these dicks don't link to it, thanks for nothing, a man opens a very old Black Lotus. That video has 6 million views. Last year, I spoke to a game store owner named John Freeman about the cultural resurgence of D&D. I think the resurgence of D&D is really just a function of the Big Bang casual nerddom, the television shows, Critical Role, things like that. That's what's leading it. So there's been a very organic regrowth of D&D. I don't think it's because the game's gotten any better or more interesting. It's just got more eyes on it. If you want to look at the sheer number of people who are playing Magic the Gathering, Magic far exceeds. Even as though Magic has grown in popularity and size, it flies low to the ground. It thrives on people who gather around lunch tables in apartments and in the 6,000 stores worldwide that Wizards of the Coast is currently letting wither and die on the vine, but that's neither here nor there. Wizards has licensed to put on weekly events, tournaments dubbed Friday Night Magic. Freeman Shop in Brooklyn does 3 or 4 a week. Well, then they're not Friday Night Magic. Especially for dedicated Magic players, Channel Fireball, a Magic event organizer who's currently killing the Grand Prix series, puts on some 60 Grand Prix events every year in countries across the planet, from Japan to Poland, Australia, and Brazil. Recently, Magic had gathered some of its most notable fans in Las Vegas to celebrate its 25th anniversary. Channel Fireball is also holding its largest tournament of the year with 6,000 people in attendance. One person called it Magic Palooza. Maybe you could call it that during Modern Masters 2015 or Modern Masters 2013. The last GP Vegas I went to was pretty underwhelming. This past one also looked pretty underwhelming, but it is a big event for a lot of people. So I guess you could say that. Again, this guy doesn't know Magic. He just writes about it one time ever. Now we get to where things kind of go downhill. Talking about his GP Vegas experience, talking to pro Magic players. These are all interesting takes. This art is suboptimal to me, but I get it. Like, they're all kind of goofy, so whatever. I don't think they're like trying to disparage Magic players, although Magic players, can sometimes look like this. The pointy noses thing is a little bit weird. Magic World Championship Tournament in 2000. Williams discovered competitive poker at a Magic tournament, but Magic, in his mind, is a superlative game, and Wizards loves having him as a kind of ambassador. When we spoke, he lauded the game's inclusive spirit, unless you post memes, but he was also frank. People of color are not as represented here. This is where it goes downhill. Nobody's stopping black folks from playing Magic the Gathering. I'm just going to put it very clear to you, okay? David Williams. Is there somebody at the door that doesn't let African Americans play Magic? No, so fuck off with that. Williams, who's half Persian, half African American, told me, but there's no reason for it. There we go. In all my years of going to Magic events, I've never had one instance, not even close to discrimination or anybody being racist. Well, that's not what Wizards of the Coast would say. Nothing ever. Several players told me that smaller tournaments offer more unseemly behavior, though event organizers have started to address these concerns. One such player from Connecticut praised Wizards' zero-tolerance policy towards bigotry of any kind. Interesting. Unless it's done by a trans person, then it's okay, right? Or personal attacks. But I guess we have different definitions of zero tolerance. Several players told me that. Oh, I'm sorry. One such player from Connecticut, blah, blah, blah. Was it Matt Lauder? They don't seem to mention any of the pedo judges, though. I noticed that. Enforced by judges who stroll between tables in black button-downs, whose main job it is to clarify ambiguities that come up in play. I had an opponent disqualify an event for making a racist statement. Not to me, just out loud. I wonder what that statement was, by the way. The player sitting to my right reported them to the judge. I confirmed his statement, and mid-game, the player was told to leave. They were upset with themselves more than anyone else. The rules are very clear. Okay. Interesting. Then the article goes on to refer to Cassius March as a huge personality in the Magic the Gathering community. Never heard of the guy until Wizards gave him cards. But I'm happy to have him in the community. It's good when NFL players come and play Magic the Gathering, and this is probably an accurate representation of what it's like sitting at a table with him. Marsh is beloved in the Magic community. Meh. But few are more adored than Brian Lewis, better known as the Professor, a man often dressed, as you would expect, in a brown waistcoat and tie, whom I found walking between tables at a tournament hall. Actually, you had a pre-set up interview, a 1 hour block of time, but, that's neither here nor there. He was once withdrawn and socially anxious and saved by Magic by many the people who have come to the game through his now thrice weekly dispatches on YouTube. His channel, Tolarian Community College, named after a fictional island in the Magic universe, where a legendary academy tragically exploded, mixes consumer reviews on proper card storage with debates about gameplay, reviews of new cards, and comedy skits with cosplayers. I think that's a fair representation of his channel. I have more people subscribed to me than Wizards of the Coast has subscribed to them, he said, brushing his shoulder-length hair back behind his ears. I know how interviews go, so I'm not going to bust his balls too bad. I'm sure they took like the worst quotes from him. The actual company that makes the game has less pull with people than I do, and they hate me for it. Brian, you're probably not wrong. You're probably not wrong. To illustrate his claim, he pointed to a young man toting a large-handled box that was designed to carry screws, but the man had filled it with magic cards. And he said, "I bet you $1,000 he got that after seeing my video on it," he said. "I tracked the man down with the case later as he was ordering a sandwich. 100%. I saw the video, and the next day I ran to Home Depot after work and picked it up." In 2013, after putting together a full-time schedule as an adjunct, you're not really full-time if you're adjunct, right? Professor at colleges around, he had to teach at multiple. That's fair. Lewis posted a video on YouTube rating different brands of card sleeves. 2 years and many videos later, the classes he was teaching were canceled. His car broke down, and he posted a video, "I just lost my job. Can I have $1?" Many dollars flowed in. Great. Goes on to say, "We're all freaks here. We're all friends here," he said, of the Magic community as it surrounded him. "Many of us were bullied as kids. Most of us, we were excluded as kids. We know that feeling. And you know what? We're adults now. And the idea that somebody isn't going to be able to play because of whatever, most people here reject that concept and say, 'Come have a seat at the table.' Well, Brian Lewis, can I come and play Magic with you? I would love to do it. I would love to play in a pre-release with you, Brian. I'd love it. Love it." Then we get into a lot of the more hilarious social justice parts of this article. Some players who wandered in from other demographics, as if they weren't welcome the whole time, found Magic pulled up the slack. Tifa Robles started going to gaming conventions in 2008 and began playing Magic in 2010. Was quickly in its thrall. She founded the Lady Planeswalkers Society after women started approaching her to teach them Magic outside of the male-dominated game store scene. Her experiences and motives reflect sailings. 1 year after she attended a gaming convention called PAX, a friend alerted her to an alarming video. Where is that? Of her on the internet. "I was playing a video game and somebody had taken a camera and was trying to go under my skirt." That is shitty. But not all men, Tifa. Later, while playing Magic at the game store where she worked, a man started talking about her breasts. Oh, no. "Oh, you're not wearing a bra today," she recalled him saying. And I was like, okay. I like how this just paints basically all men. You could write a single sentence. Or Tifa, by the way, you could have said, but that in playing Magic for 15 years or 10 years, these are the only 2 times that anything has ever happened. Oh, and by the way, the PAX thing has nothing to do with Magic the Gathering. But this article, the author conveniently leaves that out. Just paints all Magic players as disgusting. And that the women need this, savior group to exist. Chapters started popping up across the country, blah, blah, blah. While I was there, they consistently said, "Our audience is 18 to 24-year-old men," she recalls. And I was like, why? Why are we limiting ourselves to this? The pressure continued from outside, too. Mark Rosewater, a Wizards employee and activist, became Magic's head designer in 2003 and started asking questions on Tumblr. By 2012, 2/3 of the principal characters that populated Magic's fantasy world were men, and the community noticed. In a Tumblr post recently resurfaced by 2 Magic players, Rosewater told fans dismayed by the gender disparities that although Wizards wanted its player base to change, Magic was male-dominated, and the art simply followed the current natural gender skew of the game. Nothing wrong with that. Next year, 2 affable Midwestern comedians Don't you have to be funny for that? Maria Bartholdi and Megan Wolf started a podcast called Magic the Amateuring, which hardly anybody watches. Began to record attempts to win the game, began card talk for Magic nerds. No longer amateurs, they recently renamed the show Good Luck High Five. Their podcast eventually reached less typical kinds of players. We had a lot of people come up and say, our daughters listen to this, or we listen to this together as a family. Bartholdi told me, but there were also their detractors. Uh-oh. As our audience grew, they watched abrasive comments pile up on Twitter. And then, around 2015, a number of female players, including Wolf, penned a letter about the difficulties about being a woman in the Magic community. To Wizards' credit, Bartholdi recalls, they called us and said, hey, what can we do? Bartholdi and Wolf's big suggestion, make women more visible. And they did it. It's like an all-female coverage crew for the most part. They are forcing women into every position possible at the company. And look how it's working out great. Again, no problem with women. I just think you want the best person for the job, regardless of their genitals. And the idea of visibility is an absurd sexist thing to say. Like, just put more women that are visible, even if they're not the best person for the job. Screw the customers getting a good product, right? Wizards hired Bartholdi, imagine that, to cover Magic tournaments and began hiring more women to work in game development, tapping top competitors like Jackie Lee and Melissa Del Toro. Didn't Jackie Lee get caught cheating? Ironically, this meant Magic fans could no longer watch them climb the rungs of the tournament. They were never going to climb it. Well, Jackie Lee, I think, was pretty good. Oh, wait, that's not fair. Melissa Del Toro was good, too. They're both fine competitors. I'm pretty sure Jackie Lee got caught cheating, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Ironically, this has meant mad blah, blah, blah. Would you like a job with benefits, Bartholdi said? I think it's fair enough time people will break. And they'll be like, yeah, I want health care. That's just the sad reality of America. That's right. Having to pay for health care instead of playing Magic the Gathering for a living, that's a sad reality. In Las Vegas, Wizards and Channel Fireball seem to be trying to tip the gender scales for future events by highlighting the woman who had shown up at the convention center. Some of them found this special attention amusing. As I was wandering the stalls of Magic artists who sell prints and signed cards, I noticed two men with a large crema ask a young woman in a polka dot dress and boots to show off her newly signed playmat. When they asked me to do this video just now, the young woman said, after the men walked away, I was like, y'all are catfishing because there's like 10 girls here. Exactly. There is like, I mean, maybe I would say 50 to 100 females at an event of 5,000 men. So keep putting them on camera, and then the women are going to show up and be like, where are all the women? It was a slightly exaggerated claim, and yet I asked Bartholdi. She recognized the truth of it and complimented the effort. You have to push it a little bit, because if you don't, it will take longer. That's right. You have to push it. Push it in everybody's face. Look how it's working out. Then, of course, they talk about whoring out Dana Fisher every chance they get. Good for her. Roble says she now feels comfortable directing women to game stores, more of which have begun anticipating female players. Having a garbage can in their bathroom, Bartholdi said, it's so small, but it goes miles for being a woman playing in a store. Many people I spoke to in Las Vegas remarked on the unusual kindness of the Magic community, despite the existence of digital platforms like Magic Online. Though it's a long way off, Rosewater told me that the game, at least its strictly competitive form, is heading in an increasingly digital direction. This backs up a lot of what we've talked about with, them turning their backs on local game stores. Recently, Magic has also tried to acknowledge its queer and transgender customer base. Yes, all 50 of them. In 2013, game designers put their first non-binary planeswalker on a card, and 2 years later introduced their first explicitly transgender character, Alicia, who smiles at death. In Vegas, I came across Stefan Woolley, brought her a man wearing a pink shirt emblazoned with a T-Rex spewing a rainbow. He pulled a 2-year-old card called Kyranos, and Tyro of Miletus out of his backpack to show me. It depicts two soldiers in Roman style armor, one in black, standing alongside. My husband is half white, half black, he said. He held out the card, and it's pretty obvious that they're a gay couple. Interesting. Just two men standing together, it's obvious they're gay? This is how gay people think. I mean, this is how, actually, I shouldn't say that. I retract that. This is how, like, social justice comic book writers think. If there's two women together, they're probably in a relationship. It's pretty reductive to say that, well, there's two men together. They're obviously in a relationship. And it's pretty obvious they're a gay couple. One of them's running their hand through the other's hair. His husband, Lenny, ran it from another booth with an armful of merchandise. Wearing matching shirts today, Lenny said, who was also wearing a Rainbow Breathing Dinosaur shirt, suggested. Yes. Or holding hands, or kissing, or whatever. As Wizards' art direction and editors shift the illustrations and storylines that inflect each Magic card, they have inevitably drawn criticism. Designers have been reintroducing old characters or digging more deeply into their past, changing body size or switching races. Steven told me that about a planeswalker named Chandra who wields a red mana and whose red hair is frequently on fire. She's going from a plane that's basically India if the British hadn't invaded. Steven explained, but she's a white person, and all other people on her plane are basically Indian. It's kind of weird. Is it? Who thinks about that? Who thinks about that? Contrary to Garfield's inclination, too few erotically stimulating cards in recent sets. After the tournament in Las Vegas, I found slogans like "Make Magic Sexy Again" strewn across Reddit. Yeah, fuck you players for having an opinion. You're not allowed to want some sexy art, you bigots. Rosewater and many other people at Wizards, past and present, feel that pursuing inclusivity is simply the right thing to do. Of course they do. But their problem is their idea of inclusivity is through exclusion, right? That's why you ban a store with a Kyrgyzstan flag. You ban 500 players to make one happy. But it's one of the company's goals within Magic in promoting diversity and everything else is to get many people as possible to buy their cards and play with them. You know what would be a good first step? You know what would be a great first step? How about not having the cards that I pay so much money for bend immediately out when I take them out of the box? That's all. That's all. John Finkel, the top Magic competitor in the world, co-founder of a college scholarship program for Magic players, a partner at $300 million hedge fund, and a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. That's important, right? That's what's important about Brian Kibler, is his political leanings. Right? That's where I'm going to leave that at that. Leave this at that. Pretty shitty article, the last half. A few weeks later, Tumblr post, he addressed a man dismayed by blatantly nonconformist depictions of men and women alike on the latest Magic cards. But Rosewater was having none of it. That's right. He was so alpha. No more hiding behind the skew. Diversity is good, Rosewater replied. More chance for insight. More hope for brilliance will shine through. Wrong! It's called diversity of opinion and thought, not of skin color. Somebody's skin color does not provide them any unique abilities at making a game. That's racist. But I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about this article in the comment section down below.